Hello everybody, welcome back. This will be my O.W.Ls Read-A-Thon wrap-up. This was created by Book Roast here on YouTube. I went forward in the month of April to read all 12 books for all 12 prompts so I could continue with my goal to becoming an alchemist. Alchemist was the hardest career choice because you had to read all 12. There were a lot of people I saw that read above and beyond their own goals this month for O.W.Ls. I think we all did an awesome job. I was able to read all 12 of my prompts. I stuck to my TBR video that came out, and I will link that. I just had to switch out one book because the TBR the book I had, it was so big and I just wasn't feeling it, but I had a book that fit that prompt and I read it, so there we go. I'll go down the list for at least the books that I own. For Ancient Ruins, I had Wait by Jeanette Winterson. It is the myth of Atlas and Hercules. This was a short, very short read. And it's more like prose. You know, like it's not a full page of text. This was a very interesting book. Especially about, like, because this was based on the gods Zeus, Hera, Hercules. And it was about Atlas, his hubris that led to him having to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders. And Hercules, he was very much hoisted by his own petard because he was all brawn, not enough brains. But this was, I think I gave it a 3, maybe. It's sitting right in front of me. For Arithmancy, this was a book by more than one author. So I have the Zodiac Legacy. This is the first book, Convergence. There are 2 more. This is by Stanley Stewart Moore and Andy Tong. This was a really good book. And there's, you know, it's pretty nice font. So it's not a hard read. It wasn't a torturous read. I really enjoyed it. It is about a high school senior, I guess. He was like 17, 18. I guess he was 18, so he's a senior, and they were on a class trip to China, and he is of Chinese descent, and he had never been. He went to, I don't know that he went to learn more. I think he just went to experience, to know where he was from. And while there, he follows the tour guide and gets caught in this contraption that will unleash the Zodiac. So there are 12 magical superpowers that were put out into the world. And Steven becomes the tiger. So they are out looking for other members of the Zodiac to defeat the bad guy in this book. I did enjoy this. And this is a Disney book, so maybe it'll be a movie at some point or a TV show. I don't know. But I really did enjoy this. I definitely going to read the second one. For astronomy, it was a book that had stars in the title. So this is To the Stars by L. Ron Hubbard. Like, it's so shiny. Trying to blind you. This, I didn't really enjoy it. And there was, and it's not huge, you know what I mean? Like all the fonts in these books are very different, and they were very short chapters. This starts with a guy named Alan who is trying to marry Chica, the woman he loves, and he doesn't have enough money, so he's trying to get a job because he was fired, I think, or something. I don't know, but he needed more money so he could show he could provide for Chica. And he ends up being forced to join this fleet that travels to outer space to bring back cargo to trade usually. But the rub is our years move by faster than the space years. Like, they're in space for, they could be in space for 5 years, and we've already experienced 200 more years. So they come back and there aren't people here that they know, and if there are people, they have become, you know, they're older, or they have died in wars or famine. So you remain pretty much in stasis and you don't age. But the people on Earth have aged. So it's very much a culture shock. Nothing is the same. The landmarks aren't the same. And he gets back to find Chica, and Chica, she's an old lady now, and Chica believes she had married him. And she's waiting for her husband and her children to come back. So that was really sad to see that. And then he did the same thing that the original dude did. Corday ended up doing the same thing that Hale did to him to another guy. You know, not telling people that when you come back, Earth is not going to be the same, and you aren't going to know the people aren't going to know you. But I didn't really enjoy this at all. None of the characters were really, I was sympathetic to any of them. Well, I mean Corday, because he was forced into it and he missed out on his life with Chica, but then he did the same thing. So I was like, all right, bro, you didn't learn. For Care of Magical Creatures, I was going to read, what is it? Blood Drenched Beard by Daniel Galera. I still have it. I'm going to read it. But I read Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. This book is so dense. There is such a beautiful world built. There is so much happening. It's got a lot of sex in it between Tracker and any consorts, and he falls for a dude named Mossy. And this was all about trying to find a young boy who is the rightful heir to the throne. He can put the country back how it used to be, type of thing. And we get there to find the boy, and the boy is not at all what you expect him to be. But this book was, it was all about adventure, learning to depend on other people, because Tracker, that wasn't really a specialty of his, to depend on others, to trust others. I really loved this book. I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars. It's such a dense book. I had to start rereading it again because I had started it and I was like, okay, how much of this just happened? But it was a really good book. I do recommend this book. Let's see. My other books were, some of the other books were audio, or there was a graphic novel. Let's see, for charms, I read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. I listened to the audio. It was read by the cast of the movie that Reese Witherspoon is set to make. It's gonna have Benjamin Pratt in it. I love me some Benjamin Pratt. But it was just about, there was a band, the Six, and Daisy Jones was a solo artist. And we see how the band is, together. There's the 2 brothers and friends, and they make it big. They're just playing, having fun. Then they make it big, and then they start working on somebody else's deadlines, and drug use is involved. Then you see Daisy Jones, and she's beautiful, so people tend to dismiss her. She has helped write songs for other artists, and they didn't give her credit, and so she finally gets a record deal. And she blusters at the fact that they want her to start singing covers. And she had to learn that she had to play the game, where she had to do what they wanted, and then she would be able to start to do what she wanted to do. So she ended up doing a song with the Six, and then they ended up going on tour. They did an album or 2 together. I think they just did that one album, and they didn't even make it through the rest of the tour before the group was done. But I really enjoyed the book. I know this was fictitious, but I love musical documentary type of things. And the reporter, or the one that was doing the documentary, I was surprised by who the person actually was. So that was a nice thrill, but I really enjoyed this book. What else we got? For Defense Against the Dark Arts, I had to read a book started with R, and that was Rosie's Curl and Weave. This was a very slow book for me in the beginning. It has 4 stories, and they're each by a different author, but they're all based around Rosie's Curl and Weave, which is a salon in Harlem. Rochelle Allers, Donna Hill, Felicia Mason, and Frances Ray. The first book was an older couple. Well, they were single, and then they met. They have both lost their spouses, so they were a little leery of taking on a new relationship. The second one was about a 30-year-old who didn't really have enough discipline in her own life. She wants to be an actress, and her mother left her to run the shop. So she has to fly by the seat of her pants because she wasn't paying attention when her mother was trying to teach her. Oh, the third one. And that was actually my favorite one. Like, get it together, Lori. It was about a young lady. She was, probably mid-20s. She was dating is so loose. She ended up coming to New York because her soon-to-be fiance wanted to bring her up there so she could be there already for the opening of a new law firm, because her father is head of a law firm in Atlanta, and her suitor, there we go, that's a better word, he was trying to, the parents had already decided she was going to marry that guy, and he was marrying her because he wanted to be a partner, like senior partner in this law firm. And Jessica was not having that. She wasn't interested in it. She planned to go back to school to get her master's in like sociology or something like that. She wanted to help. She wants to help people because she's a teacher at a women's shelter, and she falls in love with Sheldon's brother, Gabe, who is an artist, and they fall in love and get married. The last book was about a woman who was an assistant manager at a bank branch, and she needed a date to an event at the bank president's house. So her hairdresser sets her up with a guy who delivers merchandise, and she kind of turns her nose up at him, like that's not the kind of guy she would date. She wants a guy with a degree. He needs to be in a suit and tie for work, and da-da-da-da. And this guy, she didn't know anything about him, how he made his money or anything besides that. She thought he was a delivery man. And that book was to teach her not to judge a book by its cover, because he actually owned the business. He was just doing the delivery, so he didn't, because one of the workers was sick. He actually has a degree. He used to be a teacher, and but they were together, and when she accepted his marriage proposal, he told her who he actually, what he actually brought to the table. For divination, it was to read a book set in the future. So I started reading Cinder by Marissa Mayer. That's the first book in the Lunar Chronicles. I loved that book so much. I gave it 5 stars, and then I set on the path to read the whole series, which I have done. Cinder is about an android that lives in a district, the Eastern District of the world, and she happens to meet Prince Kai because he needs her to help fix his android. Not a lot of people know she is an android. Well, she's part android because she's still human, but she has some android parts because she was in an accident as a child. And you find out what really happened as we progress in the story. She goes on an adventure. She finds out who she is. And then that just sets off. She gets arrested several times. And it was just a really good book. It was a great way to start the series. For herbology, it is a plant on the cover. So I had American Street by E.B. Zaboy. This is about a Haitian girl who, she and her mother have come to the United States to take care of her ailing aunt. And her mother gets detained in New Jersey, and she is sent forth to Detroit to be with her aunt and her 3 cousins. While there, she has to adjust to life on the west side of Detroit and school, the girls around. There's a lot of cattiness. And she ends up falling in love with a boy. And in Haitian culture, there is Papa Legba, and he gives you, he would sing, and it would be an answer to a question or thought or how to progress, a warning. And so Fabiola, which is the girl from Haiti, she was actually born in the United States, but her mother was deported, so she ended up going back with her mother when she was a child. And we just get to see how she deals with life in Detroit. History of Magic, published at least 10 years ago. And I chose The Lord of the Rings, Part 1, The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. Learn new things all the time from that trailer for his new movie. I loved this book. I'd already seen at least the first movie. I'll be real, I just remember Legolas. I remember Legolas. But I really enjoyed this. It's all about friendship between Frodo and Samwise. We have an adventure to return the ring from whence it came. There is the drama, the adventure, and I just really, really love this book. It is a denser book, obviously, but I really loved it. I cannot wait to get into the next book. Yes, I loved it so much. Muggle Studies. It was a contemporary book. I chose The Dead Queen's Club by Hannah Capin. This is another type of retelling. It was about Henry VIII and all of his wives, but these were his girlfriends because it was a high school setting. And it was very much, gave me John Tucker Must Die vibes. I really liked Henry too, until you got to see some of his personality. He was possessive, obsessive. Like, he could do what he wanted to do, but you couldn't do it. And if he felt like you had betrayed him, he was going to get back at you. And it takes the deaths of 2 of his girlfriends for a group of teenagers to figure out what actually happened and how to get him to, so they can find a way to get him to, I don't know, confess or see him doing something illegal and he will be arrested. It doesn't really go like that, but after what the culmination, you know, he will not have the power that he had previously. But I really did enjoy that book. It was so good. Potions. So that was the next ingredient, a sequel. I read Archie Volume 4 by Mark Waid. I am really loving the Archie, this Archie series. This is the one that Riverdale on CW is based on. I've loved Archie for years. I used to buy those like Reader Digest books. I loved Archie. I loved Archie as a kid. Transfiguration. It had to have sprayed edges or a red cover. Mine had a red cover. This was An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks, and there was another lady to it. My bad. It was like single white female vibes, if you've seen the movie. I thought that's where we were going, and then we really didn't. The psychologist, she has been doing studies looking for the perfect person to help her test her husband's loyalty. And going forward, we find out about the psychologist, her own issues, how she feels she is right and everyone else is wrong and they need to be punished, and she doesn't feel regret for anything she does, so she's very much a sociopath. And she just makes people's lives a living hell. And the last one she plays like that is Jess. She ends up in this study because it pays $500 and she needs the money. And at the end of the book, it touched a little on how the psychologist didn't really understand, because she has been affluent all her life. Affluent. She was born into wealth. Her family maintained their wealth, and she was wealthy in her own right. And she didn't really understand how people who may live paycheck to paycheck, she used that against people. So they touched on that like a little bit in like the epilogue. And I enjoyed more of the end of the book than I did the beginning of the book, because I just had the vibes. And I was like, no, run away, go away. But the money was a factor. Like, oh, I sit here for an hour, or I do this and I'm paid, $200 just for that. That is hard to say no to when you're in that situation and you need that money. All right, so those were the 12 books I read for my owls. I'm very excited that I finished them. So I am still on track to be an alchemist. August will require me to read 17 books. And I very much hope I have books to fit these prompts, because I would like to get through some of my physical books to see if I enjoy them, because if I don't, then I can put them to the side to be returned to the library for their book sales, because that's where a lot of them came from. All right, I hope you guys had a blast doing your owls as well. And I hope you guys enjoyed viewing this. If you did, please hit that thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do. I would love to have you. And if you've already subscribed, thank you very much. I want you guys to be safe, be well. Peace.